hoof and trunk and tail and horn and paw and wing and claw. Come bird and reptile, mammal born, all full of nature's law.
Bring bark and crow and ribbit too, in silence stare and hiss. Bring purr and trill and warble too, and voice no air can miss.
We gather here each life and all to celebrate and sing, to honor creatures large and small. 'Tis holiness we bring.
We light this chalice this morning so that we may see the miracles of life and love in all the animals with which we share our lives. In the cold nose of a dog, in the warmth of a cat on your lap, in the wondrous otherness of the hamster and the songbird, in the graceful beauty of the goldfish. Bless them all as they bless us.
So here I have a story for you. This is from the case of the animals versus man toward an ecology of being. So this is basically an Islamic fable from the 10th century, written by a group called the Brethren of Purity. They were actually very influenced by multiple religious traditions: Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Platonism, all kinds. So they were a very eclectic theological group, but they were Muslim. So in this fable, which is a sacred teaching, some animals, the wild asses, the gazelles, beasts of prey, and wild creatures and birds, were able to escape enslavement by Adam, by the race of Adam, by fleeing to deserts, forests, and glens. And this is their origin story of wildlife, is that these animals ran from humans. So they eventually come to register a legal complaint against the humans. And the animals are plaintiffs embodying a natural community that brings a case against human excesses and arrogance before a non-human court of jinns. And jinns are supernatural spirit beings in the Muslim tradition. They can be angelic, they can be demonic, but they are like these fire beings. And the animals come before the king of the jinns and charge the human creatures of God with the offense of waywardness, insensitivity, and negligence. The indictment is severe. Yeah, Declan's going like this. Yeah. The animals explain that their aim is to consider the merits and distinctions of the animals, their admirable traits, and their pleasing nature, and to touch on man's overreaching, oppressive injustice against the creatures that serve him, the beasts, the cattle, and this heedless and humankind's heedless, impious thanklessness for the blessings for which all humans should be grateful. So the cosmic principle that the animals are arguing is really simple. They say all creatures have an intrinsic natural place in God's plan. No created being, then, is brought into existence for the sake of another created being. Indeed, they say explicitly that in the bounty of nature, animals exist for their own sake, not for the sake of human beings. Human beings, therefore, have no innate superiority over the natural and animal world. And the final ruling is that, yes, that is correct. And the human beings are therefore accountable for their actions and are charged with the duty of transcending their base instincts and being responsible to the animals. What a beautiful teaching. And Thomas Berry, in commenting on this 10th century tract, says, "We are ourselves only to the extent of our unity with the universe to which we belong, and in which alone we discover our fulfillment. Intimacy exists only in terms of wonder, admiration, and emotional sympathy when beings give themselves to each other in a single psychic embrace, an embrace in which each mode of being experiences its fulfillment. And you know, when I chose this next hymn to sing sort of as a meditation of that wonder and that reverence and that gratitude for the natural world, I had no way of knowing that we would have 3 bird stories in our sharing of joys and sorrows. We had a rescue of a bird, we had a rescue, where is she, Shayla? Oh, there she is. And we had a rescue of a bird. Isn't that beautiful when that happens? This is one of my favorite hymns. So just from where we're seated, in the spirit of prayer, for reverence, for gratitude of our lives, and all of creation, the lone wild bird.
Please join me now in a litany for our animal relations, and your part is printed in the order of service. For the blessing of animal companions, we give thanks. For the beautiful ones, those whose fur is silky and whose tails are long, whose feathers are brilliant and whose voices are splendid, we give thanks. For the obnoxious ones, the heads that butt against us as we're trying to sleep, the bodies that refuse to learn discretion as they make digestive gifts, we give thanks.
For those who bark and purr and growl and mew, for all who squeak or squawk or snarl or hiss, we give thanks.
For the animals unknown to us, those whose niche in life's web is fragile, whose lives are insecure, for all who care for them and wish them well, we give thanks. Blessed are the animals, blessed are the creatures who live with us and need our care. Blessed are the mammals and the reptiles and the birds who teach us we are not alone. Blessed are all living things from whom we learn to love.
They bark and meow, they run and they sleep, they scamper and jump and they lie on the couch, they nicker and neigh, they slither and thread, they pounce and they scurry, they crawl and they crouch. The creatures we love are a sacred delight, with eyes that are bright and with tongues that are rough. They brighten our days, they wake us at night. Our praises we sing for the creatures we love. Our praises we sing for the creatures we love.
That story from earlier, that Islamic fable is such a good one for us to encourage us to look at what kind of attitude we have toward all the non-human animals. Where do we assume that humans are superior instead of just different? I don't know. I mean, we have opposable thumbs. That's our biggest advantage, and consciousness and some intellect. But there's so many kinds of intelligence we don't have. We depend on animals. We wear them to keep warm. Some of us eat them. I'm trying to do that less and less. They do labor for human beings. In many parts of the world, it's so easy for us to forget that. I don't know how many of you have animals in your lives that do actual labor. They're a form of transportation in many places. They're beautiful. They're mysterious. They're a revelation. You ever seen a whale breach? I mean, what an incredible revelation of things going on that we can't see. Or you go camping or hiking and you see the pair of eyes, gleaming out of the tree. And doesn't that little heart beat a little bit faster because you think it could be an owl, or maybe it's a big cat, and I might be in some trouble right now. We're brought to that place of respect. And then those beautiful, sweet ones that live with us, that was such a sweet anthem. The ones on the couch that we cuddle with, bring to dog parks, clean up after, relax with at the end of the day. All of this should fill us with a sense of reverence and responsibility. Thinking of that story of the legal complaint by the beasts, it made me think not only of the world of wildlife all over the planet, and I was really sobered by that sense of the origin of the wildlife being like these animals fleeing from this new creation, humans. I think about the disappearing species and their habitats, their plights, but of course also of the ones who live with us. The rescues, the adoptees, the ones that we went and got, so carefully chosen, sometimes come to us by pure accident, by the cat distribution system. I don't know how many of you ended up with a cat that just sort of chose you. I live with a dog and a cat. I have a multi-species household. None of us speak into each other's language. Not any of us. I refer to my boys as the fur bros. And they aren't just cute critters to me. They're kind of spiritual directors. They remind me to listen to other languages than just English and just human. They remind me to notice how my own moods and my actions and my smallest decisions impact the ecosystem of our shared world and the world. Because all of our private homes are a little ecosystem, a little microcosm of the larger world. And living with animals is a daily lesson to us that we're not in control. We are not in control, and that our ways of knowing and comprehending life are not the only ones. We usually, I think I learned this in fairly comical ways from my animals most of the time, but sometimes it's quite serious. I made a stew last week in the slow cooker, and my dog woke me up at 4 a.m. I thought he was sick. I was really worried because that's very unusual. And he brought me downstairs. You know how dogs are like, come on, we gotta go. And you think, oh, you gotta run outside, something's going on. And he sits in the middle of the kitchen and he's dribbling, just dribbling. And I'm like, is he having a seizure? And then I realize, oh no, he's smelling the delicious thing that's in the slow cooker, and he's just absolutely can't stand it. He's got to tell me, lady, I need that immediately in my mouth. Please handle this situation. And I had to laugh with relief. It's way too rich for him. He can't eat it, poor guy. The other day I was at Red Rock Park, and there are Jehovah's Witnesses who have sort of stationed there by the water fountains up at the start of the park. And this woman said to me, one of them who was there, she was watching me with my dog, and she goes, oh, he's the boss of you. And I said, no, he's not. Absolutely not. I was kind of firm, like maybe a little overly firm. I said, he's a beagle. which means that he was born to sniff and explore. I'm his guardian, and I respect his nature. So I'm not going to impose my will on him and destroy his joy and purpose in life, which is to go zigzagging around and to sniff everything. And I, of course, had to do a little education. I said, we have 5 million scent receptors. Beagles have between 220 million and 300 million scent receptors. You can tell she was like, I'm sorry I said anything, you know. But I was thinking about this dominance model of thinking where there's either submission and obedience or power over. And this mentality really permeates the Western world. And it was a whole theory around training dogs that was disproven. Anyway, I won't get into that. But we're not owners. We're not their owners. We are their guardians. And we are family members. We're not giving into or spoiling our animals by being enchanted by their unique natures and respecting their fully individual and unique personalities. Those are real. They are to be honored. They delight our days, even when they make messes and ruin our sleep and dribble on the kitchen floor. And they do not live long enough. They eventually bring us to heartbreak. They can't directly tell us what they need, but they do kind of train and tutor us in our proper place and role in creation as fellow creatures with no natural innate superiority, but a moral and spiritual responsibility to be grateful for all our relations, who are possessed of other gifts and consciousness of their own kind and needs and, yes, rights. And of course, yes, I will say this in a church as your minister, they do have souls. They have souls. In the end, wouldn't it be wonderful to say of those animals we are blessed to live with and share the earth with, that we have tamed each other a little bit? We're going to bless our animal friends now by the earth below us, by the sky above us, by the love within us and around us. Do we bless them? May they be protected from all harm. May they be well. May they give and receive love.